Hey, good morning, everybody. It is attorney Veronica McClendon. I'm here doing something spontaneous, something that I have not done before, but I'm trying to just like go for it and stop wasting time thinking about stuff, planning stuff, going over back and forth between should I do this, should I not do this. So I decided that I am going to do this Kwanzaa series where we talk about heirs property in the context of Kwanzaa. And I have no script for this, so I'm just going to talk. And I would love when people tune in if you could put your questions in the chat, put your thoughts in the chat. If you are watching the replay, do that too. You can put your questions, your thoughts in the comments, and I will respond to them when I get to them. I'm going to be doing this every day of Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa is December the 26th through January 1st. And every day of Kwanzaa has a different principle. And I know that a lot of people might think like Kwanzaa is an old holiday, like nobody does it anymore, or they might think like, what's the point of Kwanzaa? It's a made up holiday. Whatever people want to think about it. But I do. I actually, I live in Macon, Georgia, and we have an annual Kwanzaa celebration every year, and we do something every day of that Kwanzaa celebration, every day for that entire week. And it's really opened my eyes to the power that lies in this holiday, in this celebration of Kwanzaa. There is a huge amount of potential if we apply the principles of Kwanzaa. In fact, yesterday was the first day of Kwanzaa, which was Umoja. And we talked about Umoja stands for unity, and we had a speaker, Dr. Chike Akua, from I believe he's a professor in Atlanta. I'm gonna say it that way so I don't get any schools wrong or anything like that. But he's a professor in Atlanta, and he came down to Macon to talk to us about the principles of Kwanzaa, what it means, and he told a story of a city. I think it was Pali. I think it was Pali. I could be wrong, but he told a story of a city, and he described the way that the city operated, the people in the city operated, basically living out the principles of Kwanzaa and the outcome of that city and what following those principles, the promise that it brings. He talked through all of that, and when he finished telling the story, I thought, why can't we create something like that in our time? Like why couldn't we live out those principles and actually like see what it's like to create a world that follows the principles of Kwanzaa? So as I was thinking about that, I think at some point, like yesterday, I did a spontaneous webinar on heirs property where I was talking through what is heirs property and helping families to understand some of the things that they might encounter when they're working with their family to try to straighten out the heirs property. We also were talking about just like generally what it is and what things need to be done in order to get heirs property in a family straightened out. And as I was talking through that, I thought, why not do something on Kwanzaa where I actually talk about heirs property, but in the context of the Kwanzaa principles? So I was like, hey, let's do it. I was trying to plan it out a little bit yesterday and think through, okay, what am I going to talk about? And I couldn't really think about it. So I just said, I'm going to just come on here, do something quick, just jump on here and talk. And it's going to be better if y'all leave questions and comments in the chat. That way I can respond directly to things that you are specifically wanting to talk about. What I'm gonna do to start us out is just talk through today's principle. Like I said, today is the second day of Kwanzaa. The principle for today is Kujichagulia, self-determination. I have no, I do not profess to be one who knows Swahili and can speak Swahili perfectly. So if I did not say Kujichagulia the correct way, please forgive me. I am not an expert in Swahili or in Kwanzaa. I am relatively new to celebrating it in such an intentional way. I've known about it all my life. We've kind of touched on it here and there throughout my life, but in the more recent years, I've actually started to get more into it, attend the celebrations. I need to do a little more reading about it, but just bringing my family into this holiday and celebrating it a little bit more intentionally. So I'm gonna look at this Kwanzaa a website that I found. It says it's the official Kwanzaa website. I mean, I don't know if it really is, but the principles are the way that I understand them to be. So we're gonna look at that and go from it. And if there are any Kwanzaa experts on this call, on this live, then please, don't hesitate to share what you know so we can make sure that we are accurate with what we're talking about. So the second principle of Kwanzaa is Kujichagulia, self-determination, and it means to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. And there's a little bit more information about what that means. It says that this principle demands that we as an African people define, defend, and develop ourselves instead of allowing or encouraging others to do this. And it's about defining identity. The first step, the first act of a free people is to shape its world in its own image and interest. So it's a statement of of a person, of a people's conception of self and commitment to self-determination. So I could go through and read more and more about this, and maybe I will at some point during this conversation. But I also just wanted to say what does this have to do with heirs property? Like what does Kwanzaa and what do the Kwanzaa principles have to do with heirs property? And to me, they're like so aligned. Because when you think about heirs property is family property. It is jointly owned property. And a lot of times the property came into the family because the ancestor who originally purchased the property or acquired the property, or the ancestors, it might be a couple or it might be an individual. In some cases, it might have even been like a group of siblings or two brothers, two sisters who decided to purchase land together. But a lot of times when this property was acquired, even though there may have been one owner or two owners, they had a vision for this property being something that would benefit the family for future generations. And so when they acquired this property, they didn't just see it as, oh, I have this property, I'm going to just use it to farm or I'm going to live on it, whatever I'm doing. They're thinking, I want to acquire something that my children and my grandchildren can benefit from as they move throughout their lives. I want this to be a shared space where my family can come together and have a place that they can always call home. I want to create a place where my family can feel safe, where they don't have to be concerned about the outside forces that may want them to fail. And so when I put that in context of Kwanzaa, Kujichagulia, self-determination, I think heirs property is like the perfect example of a people who are working to have self-determination, to say this is our land, and as far as this land goes, we get to set the rules. We get to say who gets to come, who has to leave. We get to say what kind of life we're going to create here. It could be a house and it's the family house, and you can say, hey, when you walk into this family home, what you're going to feel is love. What you're going to feel is the presence of people who care about you, people who support you. This is a home base. This is a place where nobody has to feel like they're less than. This is a place where everybody can feel like they're included, like they're important, a place where people can come rest. If that's not self determination, I don't know what is. Self determination is saying that as far as the things that are within my control, I'm gonna set the tone. And so when heirs property, we that's where it comes from. Like the person who originally acquired that property, they were like, look, I want something for my loved ones to have. I want to create a legacy for them. I want to create an example for them. And so to me, heirs property represents that ethos, that spirit of self-determination, to say, I don't want somebody else to say what I can have and what I can't have. I'm going to acquire this and I'm going to choose what I have for myself and what standards and what way of living my children and grandchildren are going to have. Now, the thing about heirs property is that this vision was there, but it was not always communicated clearly. And even if it was communicated clearly, it may not have been presented in a way that the family was able to implement it moving forward. Perhaps there was not anything put in place legally to say, hey, these are the rules for how we're going to operate this property. We're going to make sure that when our family comes in, that if you are a member of this family, you have a place to stay. However, we're gonna make sure you contribute, because this is not just something that is tip to benefit you. We're here to benefit the collective. So that kind of gets to the first principle of Kwanzaa, which was yesterday, and that's umoja. That represents unity. I didn't get to talk about that because I didn't have this idea until later yesterday. But umoja is about unity. So heirs property brings together the family in a spirit of unity. This is a place that we can all go. This is a place that we can all be. This is a place where we can um, come together and be on one accord and have a common and a shared vision. But in order for that to truly happen, there has to be some kind of a plan put in place in order to support umoja, unity, in order to promote Kujichagulia, self-determination. So I believe that families today, regardless of if your family property has clear title today, or if you have to clear up the title and create something moving forward, Kwanzaa is telling us, hey, this is an opportunity for you to view your land in this context, to view your land in a way that it is something that I'm going to make sure is around for future generations. And I'm going to put some procedures, some rules, some plans in place to make sure that they can sustain this movement into the future. So ways that a family can promote that continued self-determination is to say, hey, whatever has happened in the past, happened in the past. Here's where we are today. The family can come together, bring in the professionals that they may need, whether it be an attorney to do a title search and to help them understand who are the owners of this family property. You might need to bring in other experts like financial folks, someone to help you come up with a financial plan, a business plan for the property. You might need to bring in land consultants. If you own forest land, you might need to bring a forestry consultant in, or if it's agricultural land, bring in agricultural experts. But this is your opportunity to exercise self-determination when it comes to your family property. You can say, I don't know what happened before, or maybe you do know what happened before, but here on out, we're going to be in control of this situation. We're going to create family teams who are going to be responsible for carrying out different aspects of the family. One team is going to be the fundraising team. They're looking for ways to make money with the property so that we can actually pay the bills and sustain the rest of the effort. We're going to get a team that's going to look for a lawyer. That team is going to hire someone who is an expert in heirs property, real estate, probate laws, and who can help us to create a legal strategy to clean up the ownership of our family property, create a sustainable structure moving forward. We're going to look at opportunities to build homes on this property. We want to make sure that there is a place for our family to stay. So if you have a lot of land, you might say, let's create a residential section. And we're going to get someone to help us create a plan so that it's like a little mini subdivision. And we know where the houses are going to be. We're going to know how far off the road they're going to be. We're going to get a land surveyor to come in and help us to create different plots for each living site. Or you might say, let's build a multi-family home. Let's build like a mini apartment on our property so that we have a place for multiple family members to live. You get to decide what that looks like. That's what self determination is about. And it doesn't have to all happen at once. I think sometimes people get overwhelmed because they're like, oh, I want to build an apartment building. And then I also want to get the pond rehashed or what do we call it? Refurbished. I don't know, y'all. So I'm a lawyer. I touch on these things with folks here and there, but sometimes I'm like, what do we call it? I don't know because I'm not a agricultural or land professional. But you're gonna get the pond where you can use it again. Put some fish in there that you can fish. You might decide I want to clean up the roads. Sometimes when we have heirs property, we might have like old dirt roads, and it might be time to put something in that's a little more permanent, that's more resistant to erosion. You might have all these things you want to do. You don't have to do it all at once. You can decide self determination again. You can decide what are we going to prioritize, what's most important for our family at different points in time. So these are things that you can do. And you also can have a team in the family whose job it is to identify resources to say, okay, we need someone to come and help us to fix this erosion problem. Or we need someone to come help us to remediate. That's the word I was looking for. Remediate this pond or remediate these wetlands. There are government agencies whose job it is to help you with that. There are private consultants who can help you with that. There's money available through grants, loans, or whatever there might be to help you through that. There's conservation programs that can help you. There are so many resources out there, but you just have to sit down and decide what it is that you're going to go after. So I'm gonna pause here for just a minute and say, if you have not already subscribed to this channel, I do encourage you to do so. If you have not liked this video, please go ahead and like this video. It helps other people to learn about this and maybe join in on these other holiday talks that not holiday talks, Heirs Property Talks, where we're going to be talking through the Kwanzaa principles. So again, today is the second day of Kwanzaa. Today is Kujichagulia, which represents self-determination. We will be going through another principle tomorrow. See, I'm learning as I go. I think it's Ujima, but don't 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 mark my words on that, because I'm still learning. I know the first 2 days, and we're gonna just go at a day at a time. But we're gonna be doing this every day. Tomorrow, since it's Sunday, we're gonna do it at 4:30. But then on the other days of the week, it would be at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. So I hope y'all will join me for the other Heirs Property Talks that will be happening during Kwanzaa, and that you would tell a friend or a family member who y'all are working on Heirs Property together and y'all trying to figure this out. Tell them to join us live, because you can ask questions. That's the other thing I was going to say. If y'all have questions about Heirs Property, we just doing Heirs Property Talks. It happens to be focused on Kujichagulia, self-determination. But whatever Heirs Property questions y'all have, just drop them in the chat, because I just like talking about Heirs Property. So we can talk about it. Y'all may be like, okay, well, we'll talk about Heirs Property, but who are you? Are you qualified to talk about it? So let me introduce myself. I am attorney Veronica McClendon. I am an attorney in Macon, Georgia. I serve the entire state of Georgia, but we can talk about heirs property regardless of where you are, because a lot of times the principles are very similar, despite what state you're in. Their state law does determine a lot of how your family heirs property is going to go, but there are general principles that I think you can apply regardless of if you're in Georgia or any other state. So I work with families on heirs property issues, helping them to get clear ownership of their heirs property, helping them to consolidate the ownership into an entity like an LLC or trust, or maybe they want to subdivide it between family lines or put it into one person. Whatever it is that the family's goal is, I can help them through that process. My firm also helps families with estate planning. So we do wills and trusts, we do probate, and we also help farmers to get their business in order by creating structures, legal structures for their property, other things like leases and contracts. We can help farmers and landowners with those things as well. So, if you were wondering if I know what I'm talking about, then those are my qualifications. I've been working on heirs property now for about going on 10 years now. I think, yeah, January of next year will be 10 years of me being involved in heirs property. So I've been doing this for a little while, and I love talking about it. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. Anything you want to say about heirs property, have you experienced it? Do you have your own stories to tell? I would say don't tell us anything that is confidential, legal stuff that you don't want other people to know, because then they might come and either try to steal your land or do something that will harm your interest. Don't talk about that on here. But tell a story. Tell a story about self determination with your family land. In fact, I will tell one of my own that just came to mind. I come from landowners, and it's not a part of our family story as clearly as it probably should be. And perhaps that's part of my call that I might be feeling right now. Like, hey, maybe I'm the one that's supposed to help tell this story, or maybe one of my children who are young now, but maybe I can get them interested and they'll tell the story. Because in fact, my baby did tell me the other day, she's 6. She said, Mommy, I think that I want to be an author when I grow up. I love to write stories. And I said, that's awesome. I said, you could be an author. You could be an author now. You don't have to wait till you grow up. So maybe she'll be working on the story. I don't know. But my great, let's see, okay, so grandma, then grandma's mama, that's my great grandmama, then my great great grandfather, his name was Isaac Guy. and he owned some property in Louisiana. There was some kind of a program that the government was offering where they were helping people who wanted to farm to get land so that they could farm. It was some kind of oh goodness, I can't remember what it's called. Maybe a homesteading act or something like that. I can't remember exactly which program it was, but I believe that they did it for the white farmers first. They gave them some of the best land and gave them land, but then they offered the program to black farmers as well. And my great grandfather, I think that's how you say it. Great great grandfather Isaac Guy, as well as maybe a couple of his sons. They ended up getting maybe 40 or 50 acres from the government, and they became farmers. It came with a house. So it came with a house. It came with some land and maybe like one other thing to help the farmers get started. So my great great grandfather, he had this land and he was just well known. Like even like this is my mom's family, but my dad said on his side of the family they knew about my mom's family because they had land and they were farmers and they were seen to be like relatively prominent in the community. And I know that my great great grandfather, they said every year for his birthday, he would have a big cookout and he would invite everybody. Of course, family was invited, but then he also would invite anybody else in the community who wanted to come and eat, and he would just feed the community on this day on his birthday. And he may have done it other times throughout the year, but that's just one of the stories that my family tells of my great great grandfather and how he was just very generous. They say if you ever needed anything, that he always was happy to help. He was one of those people that if there was a problem in the community, a lot of times people would call on him and he would come and help to diffuse the situation, whatever that might have been. So that's the story that I can remember, and I need to talk to my elders and get more details about it because they're in their late 80s and early 90s. So I got to get those stories of people who knew him personally. But our family land was just a very important part of my family history, and it just helped to create this sense of pride, this sense of stability, this sense of authority over oneself that Kujichagulia is all about. Like it was just for me, what I can glean from the stories that I heard, there was just a lot of pride and just everybody felt like they were somebody because of their connection to this land and what they could produce through this land. I know my grandma talks about, she said they had a truck garden. And what I learned a truck garden is, it's like you have a garden and you grow your vegetables and stuff, and then you fill up your truck with the different vegetables and you take them to town and sell them. And so they did that, and they had chickens and some other animals on the farm. I'm not a farm girl. I grew up in the Atlanta area, so I don't know this personally, but I do remember hearing the stories. And I know every time we would go visit my family in Louisiana, my mom would kind of point out where our family land was. I never, from what I remember, I don't think I ever went to. I have gone to some of it because we had different family members who each had their own land. And so I know I've gone to visit some of my older cousins or some of my aunts and uncles who had land in this area. So that's just to me like the perfect story of self determination, of what land ownership, what property ownership can do for a person and how it can help them to feel confident in themselves, to feel like they're in control of their lives. And all this is happening during a time of segregation, of all kinds of crazy stuff going on in the American South. But there was still a sense of pride that families were able to have because they owned their own land, because they owned their own property. That even though they couldn't protect themselves 100% from what was going on in the world, they were able to still have a place of self determination. And so many of you still have your family property. You have an interest in your family property, or perhaps your parents do, or your grandparents do. This is an opportunity for you to to continue that legacy, to say, we're not going to let the family property be lost. We're going to ensure that this property continues to provide for us, to continue to provide for us a level of self determination, a level of stability that we might not have without it. So that's what this me rambling and talking about this is all about. Just wanting to encourage you, to inspire you, to hold on to that family land if that's what your heart is telling you to do. And it's not gonna be easy because you got to deal with your family. Everybody's not gonna be on the same page as you. You also are going to have to put in a lot of financial resources, a lot of time, a lot of effort researching, finding the people who can help you. There's a lot that goes into it, but my goal is to help support you through that process. So that's why we are doing these Heirs Property Talks. We'll be doing them every day for the days of Kwanzaa. So today is the second day of Kwanzaa, Kujichagulia. Let's see, let me not even be guessing anymore. I have the internet and I can see what tomorrow's principle is. Let's see, Kwanzaa, seven principles. Let us not be ignorant when we have the internet right here. So the third, we're gonna just go through them now. Day one is Umoja, which is unity. Day two is Kujichagulia, self-determination. Day three, I was right, Ujima, collective work and responsibility. Number four is Ujama, cooperative economics, which is one of my favorite ones. So I got to get ready for that because I love cooperative economics. Five is Nia, purpose. I like that too. Six is Kuumba. I'm gonna get it right before the end of the week because they're gonna say it at the Kwanzaa celebration. I'm gonna get it right. But it's creativity. And number seven is Imani, which represents faith. So we're gonna go through each of these. Like I said, tomorrow is Sunday, so we're gonna do that one at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. But every other day, the goal is to do it at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. So y'all join me so we can have these Heirs Property Talks. I feel like a child is gonna bust through my door anytime. So if that happens, just excuse it. You know, they out of school. But I've been talking a lot. Ain't nobody putting nothing in the chat. That's all right though. Y'all can subscribe. I see a few of y'all here. Go ahead and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Go ahead and like this video. Everybody has not liked this video. Y'all go ahead and do that. And if you got something you want to talk about, a question, a comment, a story you want to tell me what you're eating today. I don't know. I would love to hear from you in the chat. Let me know that you are here. I see y'all. Nobody saying nothing to me. So y'all just say so. Just say what's up. Just do that if you want to. Just say, hey, Attorney McClendon, hey, Veronica. Give me a shout out in the chat. I like to hear from people to know that I'm not talking to a brick wall. I'm actually talking to real people. But yeah. So that's where so much for letting me know. I'm so sad. I've been talking and y'all couldn't hear me. Can y'all hear me now?